Hey guys, it's Danny. Today it is time for some Q&A. It's been a while actually. So I will reply to the comments you left on my channel and on the Q&A videos as well. I'll try to answer as many questions as possible as usual. So let's just get started. First of all, today's video together with this entire series is of course sponsored by repotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchids. From potting mixes to pots, fertilizers, accessories, grow lights, and everything in between. And not only for orchids, but also for other houseplants as well. So I will link you to their website down below. Feel free to check them out at any time. You can also check out the products that I personally like the most, although, you know, there are quite a few of them, but I'll link you to the ones that I find used most of the times. And I think you will enjoy as well. And with that said, we can actually start. I have a set of 12 questions that's my goal. Respond to 12 questions. And after this, I'm gonna record another video with 12 questions and then another one. That's the goal for today. So, by the way, our companion today is the lovely tropical chip. I just love this orchid so much. It has such beautiful, colorful flowers, and it has a beautiful citrusy scent that I just want to display it whenever I can. So with that said, now it is time to start. First question from Farah. Can you clarify the stage of orchid or time for repotting Cattleya, unifoliate Cattleyas versus bifoliate Cattleyas? I heard and did research that bifoliate Cattleyas are more sensitive to repotting, and we should only repot when the new roots start to emerge from the growth. Asking this because recently I bought a bifoliate Cattleya with thin, tall canes. Podinara Naomi's Delight. I don't think I know that one, but I know the type you're referring to. But I'm afraid to repot it at the wrong time. Thank you in advance. Okay, here's my actual hands-on experience. I don't know if I can make this generalization that bifoliate Cattleyas are a little bit more finicky with repotting, because I have bifoliates that have no issue. For example, this one is a bifoliate. This is a very vigorous orchid actually. I got it a year and a half ago, I do believe. It grew so many pseudobulbs. It grows roots all over the time. It has continuous growth. So if you go by the rule of repotting when the new roots start, you know, you can repot it at several times of the year because it just grows so fast. It creates multiple pseudobulbs per year. There are bifoliates that do not do that. And again, I have unifoliates, especially the fluffy flowered Cattleyas. Goodness. Oh my goodness, if you repot those like in the middle of the growing season when they don't actually produce roots, drama. So I would rather you guys get a feel for each orchid individually. There are so many hybrids. It's hard to generalize. Even if maybe in the past the bifoliate versus unifoliate trend was true, I don't think it is anymore. There are too many hybrids. So just for you to be safe until you get to know the orchid, repot when you see new roots starting to form from the new growth. It can happen as the new growth is tiny. It can happen when the new growth fully matures. It can happen after it blooms. It can happen a year after the new growth matures. It is how it is. So because you don't know the orchid and if it grows fast, do that. Look at the roots and determine when you should repot it, no matter if it's unifoliate or bifoliate. Another Cattleya question, I don't know how I managed to put them in the same place. A question from Mila. Can I grow Cattleyas indoors? Yes, of course. I grow all of my orchids indoors. Absolutely. The thing with Cattleyas is they do really enjoy bright light, not necessarily direct sunshine. Hot sun can still burn their leaves, but they can be grown successfully both outdoors and indoors if you have good light indoors. I personally use grow lights, and I have a question about it next. So I use grow lights of all sorts of types just to supplement, because this room, especially in summer when the sun is high, doesn't get enough sun. If you have enough sun on your windowsill, you can filter it with a sheer curtain and it's absolutely fine. If you don't, you can use grow lights. Absolutely any, I don't know if any, but many orchids we can easily find available for sale can be grown indoors, because nurseries do tend to stock up on those orchids that don't die off so fast for people and they don't pose too many challenges. Well, there are some that do, but Cattleyas are not some of them. Next question regarding grow lights. Hi Danny, can you help me with some grow lights? I bought the Purina lights from your recommendation and they were great for Cattleyas. However, they are way too bright for Phalaenopsis. Do you have a specific recommendation on phals? First and foremost, I don't think there is such a thing as too bright for Phalaenopsis, unless we're talking about direct sunshine or you're growing your Phalaenopsis like this close to the grow light. That's too much for any orchid. Maybe not for Vandas and Cattleyas as much, but I can see how it's like too close for a Phalaenopsis. So, I don't know if it's too much light, but I will believe what you're saying. I would reassess a little bit that situation, but if you want something lower intensity, of course you can grow. Wait, hold on. I've been doing some rearranging downstairs actually, and I have the grow light from rePotme here that I used for one of my catasetums. It outgrew it. Like, the light is tall, but it's not for a catasetum. It's for a Phalaenopsis, especially a mini Phalaenopsis. Definitely you can use one of these grow lights from rePotme. There are a few types. This one is one of my favorites because you can actually adjust it. It's telescopic, right? You can also use it as a stake to support the flower spikes. It's pretty awesome actually. So this one is about a 10 watts. If you feel like you are providing too much light with in the shelf, definitely consider like a standalone light like this, or just pull the orchid away from the light if you can. I don't know how much space you have in your shelf. That is, you know, the downside of having one of those tube lights. You kind of have to gauge it a little bit depending how much space you have in your shelf. There are pros and cons with everything, but I fully recommend that particular light that I showed you. I grew an entire catasetum under it until it outgrew it. Next question from the Piglet. Hi, I have a Phalaenopsis orchid and I'm starting to notice the roots turning purple. Do you know what causes this? Is it good or bad for my orchid? Love your videos. Alright, so I will assume that you're referring to the root tips, and that the roots themselves are okay in the sense that they're not desiccated, they don't have burning patches or velamen missing. I will assume everything is okay, it's just that the tips are purple. That is absolutely normal. Some Phalaenopsis hybrids or even species, they have a lot of anthocyanin, which is a red purplish pigment. As a general rule, it's not a rule set in stone, but typically Phalaenopsis that have some purple in their flower, whether it's like the whole flower is purple or they have a purple lip or some purpleness in them, they have a greater chance of having more anthocyanin that shows both in the leaves and also in the roots. And because the roots are protected by that dry layer of cells, the velamen, you cannot see that purpliness all that well, but you do see it in the tip, which is very fresh. It doesn't have that dry layer of cells formed just yet. And in brighter light, typically this pigment intensifies a little bit because not only does it help in giving the flower its color, which helps with pollination, but it also helps with protecting from bright light. It's not protecting from UV, I think, because this pigment shows up very bright both in natural light and in artificial light. In the artificial grow lights we have, these ones that I'm using, they don't actually emit UV light properly. So I would say everything is normal with your orchid if the roots grow and have no issue. It's just the natural pigmentation of your orchid. Next question from Rhea Wilkinson. How big do Phalaenopsis actually get? Oh, I know where this is going. I have some I bought at a box store and grocery stores that I have cared for with the help of your videos. They're beautiful and bloom often, but they're really big. Yeah, I know. One has 2 keikis that I left on. It doesn't bloom as often, but the flowers are 10 centimeters across. Again, yes, very normal. The crowns are tipping over. How, I assume, is what wild ones would look like. Absolutely, they grow slanted and they will always try to grow at an angle, particularly towards the light. Do they just keep getting bigger? Do they have a lifespan? I love them, but space is becoming an issue. Absolutely, welcome to the world of intermediate orchid growers when all of the Phalaenopsis we purchase from the flower shops are taking over our lives. Let me just show you a flower shop one. It's not the biggest you can have, but it's pretty big. Let me just show you how it looks like. Ta-da! Yes, you can have even bigger Phalaenopsis than this actually, but this is one of the typical flower shop Phalaenopsis. These particular hybrids with big flowers typically have a big leaf span as well. It's absolutely normal. The reason why you purchase them smaller is because they are put on for sale by nurseries at their first blooming. They are very, very young orchids. They bloom for the first time, and Phalaenopsis generally can bloom at a very, very young age. Now, typically, whatever you buy from the shops will get at least twice as big long term. There is a limit. It will not grow forever. You're not gonna have a Phalaenopsis that is like 1 meter across. A flower shop Phalaenopsis, that is. So they will stop at some point, maybe at a 45 centimeter leaf span, which is a lot. And the problem you're describing is the problem we all face at some point, at least I did. So I decided to cut back on the Phalaenopsis that I have and just focus on other plants. I'm gonna put this one back, and hold on, I have another tip for you. So personally, I limited my collection to 2 or 3 Phalaenopsis of this size. But if you really, really, really like Phalaenopsis generally, and you like to purchase them like not from nurseries, but like close to you, try to go for miniature Phalaenopsis. They will grow about 3 times the size that you buy them at as well, but they will not get super huge. Bonus, they do create smaller flowers, but in greater numbers. I will link you to the video that I made on how I get so many blooms on my mini Phalaenopsis. You'll see there how they look like in a few years, couple to 3 years or so. You will see how big they can get. That would be their maximum, but I believe the show is much, much better. It's more compact. It's not, you know, that lanky kind of flower spike. I personally don't like that. I don't know, some people do it, like it's a taste. But check that video out, and if you like Phalaenopsis, stick with the miniature Phalaenopsis. And don't worry, it's normal for them to grow so big. Next question from Anna. I bought a Cattleya and it came with sun damage. Should I cut off the damaged parts or leave them? It's up to you. I would only say that if the damaged part, like the leaf, is almost entirely damaged, you know, you can cut it off. It is what it is. Most likely, if the damage is so extensive, the leaf will dry off and fall on its own. You can let it be. But if you have just a few sunspots here and there, actually the leaf can still photosynthesize and perform normally. The orchid can actually seal off a little bit the areas itself. So if you just have a few sunspots, a few sunburns, but the leaf doesn't seem like it's gonna yellow and fall, let it be, I would say. I know aesthetically doesn't look good, but it actually helps the plant. Every bit of leaf photosynthesizes and helps the plant. So especially if your orchid is maybe not a very big orchid, maybe it has a few pseudobulbs, I would let them be. Chances are maybe if the leaves are so compromised, they will fall on their own. But for now, you can let them be. That's from the point of view of somebody who doesn't really care so much about the aesthetics of the plant. I don't care if it has some yellowing on the leaves. It's, you know, if you see these orchids in their natural habitat, you can Google or you can see on YouTube some videos of people just filming these orchids in their natural habitat. They look so unkempt, sorry. So like they have all sorts of damages, all sorts of stuff. It's normal. It is how it is. Pests and all of these things are part of nature as well. I know we like to keep, you know, our orchids very manicured and everything, which is great. It's fine. It's how you enjoy them. But, you know, the orchids have their own defenses as well. Next question from Scott. About every second or third time that I bathe my Phalaenopsis, I give it a little bathe. I would say, I think you mean water. I give it a little Neptune's Harvest tomato and vegetable fertilizer. I started using the bath water to water our other house plants. Oh wait, the water used with your orchids. Mostly snake plants and a huge bamboo plant. Is this a bad idea? Could I be transferring something from the orchid that could harm the other plants? I haven't seen anything so far. There's always a chance. Every plant is prone to having diseases, and some are worse than others, aka viruses. Now for orchids, there are some specific viruses that can actually affect other plants as well. I'm not sure if bamboo, and snake plants are in the category. I don't really know for a fact if the viruses can affect both of these types of plants. I shall assume it can, but you know, it's really up to you. Sometimes the orchids are absolutely fine and you can reuse that water. I personally do because honestly, you know, I don't care so much about the houseplants as I do about the orchids. With the orchids, I never share water in between them or with any other plant or anything other than maybe aquarium water from time to time. I don't want to throw it away and I use it with my orchids. But other than that, I just use whatever water I have with the other plants as well. But just so you know, there's always a risk with any plant. It's really up to you how much you care about the other houseplants in case something goes wrong, if you can repurchase them. Next question from Pamela. Oh, this is a question that I actually didn't answer last time. It just slipped my mind, especially with comments that have multiple questions. Sometimes, you know, some of them skip my mind. Sorry, I heard your answer about holes in the pots, but didn't hear your answer about using sticks to hold up the stems. Are supports beneficial? Well, yes, they're beneficial, but my user refers to the stakes that usually we clip flower spikes to. But I use those stakes to support canes as well. And pseudobulbs wherever the case is needed. Yes, they are absolutely beneficial, not for the orchid necessarily or indirectly for the orchid, but more for ourselves because, okay, this is a Cattleya orchid, doesn't really need support because the flower spike is not heavy, but imagine a Phalaenopsis orchid with like 30 flowers that is already leaning, it's already super top heavy like my other viewer was saying. Imagine how heavy that flower spike will get. If you cannot support it in any way, you can actually try to recenter its center of gravity in a way and make it a little bit more stable. You can also shape flower spikes to the way that you want when they grow with a stake, and you can also maintain orchids tidier, especially Cattleyas and sympodials, especially these Cattleyas that have very thin pseudobulbs. I could shape this one to be a lot straighter. I don't feel like it, but I could. So yeah, why not? If supports help, even aesthetically, it's fine. Orchids don't care. They don't know there's a stake there necessarily. It's more for us. And indirectly, if we can protect them from damage with a stake, indirectly it's beneficial for them as well. Next question from Catty. Do you leave water in your cover pots that are metal? Do they rust or leak? Yes, I do, depending on the pots. Some are painted, so pretty much the metal is sealed, but even so, sometimes they rust. It's no big deal, just some iron oxide. It's fine for orchids. Some of my pots are actually aluminum, I believe, or a material that doesn't rust, so I don't have rusting issues. Do they leak? I didn't have one that started to leak yet, because here's the thing, that water doesn't really sit way too much in that pot. It usually sits in the first day until the sphagnum moss has a chance to absorb it, and then it goes away, it's poof. So it doesn't actually sit there for long enough to cause serious like rusting issues. So no, I don't have a pot that is leaking yet due to rusting, and I've been using these pots from quite a number of years. Will it get there eventually in 20 years? Maybe, maybe, but I'll replace them by then. So no, I don't actually have a problem yet. Next question from another Pamela. Is there an automatic watering system you can recommend for my orchids approximately 4 or 5 months, or do I need to ask a human help? Oh, I believe you are going away or you're gonna be missing from home for 4 to 5 months. I would ask a human, even though, you know, people do make mistakes. Try to give them clear instructions. Automatic systems are even worse because so first let me recommend one. I don't know of a good one except for the one that I use in my terrarium that has some nozzles that spray, but they can be adjusted to like jet, I guess. So in a 24-hour cycle or even more, you can, no, it's mine is 24 hours. So in a 24-hour cycle, you can set them to spray water for like 5 seconds to 1 minute or something like that. So you could like daily let them sprinkle a little water like for 10 seconds. Theoretically, it would work. I think it's a headache. I think you shouldn't do it because also when the current drops, everything gets resetted. At least on my device it does, so I always have to set it back to sprinkle whenever I want it. I personally would not go for an automatic system. That's just me. If anybody has a good system in mind, you can let us know down below in the comment section. I would still go with a human. Just leave clear instructions on a piece of paper. Don't tell them and forget. No, leave them on a piece of paper. People forget. People think they remember, but they don't. It's human. Leave them on a piece of paper very clearly, the instructions, and I think you should be okay. Next question from Jody Hawkins. I've noticed that you put your airflow plastic pots in tight-fitting decorative pots. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of the airflow? I don't put them on in tight-fitting plastic pots. There's about 2 centimeters of space here. No, but whatever the case is, no, it doesn't really defeat the purpose. The purpose is not to create a seal. That's when the problems start. If water has some room to evaporate, it will do so. And especially in my environment, which is very warm, I don't have an issue per se. Most of my pots that have these holes are very old, from the times that I was living in Romania, different setup altogether. I'm just reusing the pots now for the past 12 years or so. And yes, some of them have holes, but some of them don't. I actually I also work a lot with these cheap nursery pots, just to show that it is possible and that it is manageable. You can, if your environment helps and you already have a feel for it. But in my beginner tutorials, I always use the ones that already have ventilation holes because they're just more useful for beginners. And in my day-to-day, I use them because I have them and I'm not gonna throw them away, pretty much. Let's put you here. So yeah, no, they're not tight-fitting. Even if some have only 1 centimeter wiggle room, typically most of them have more than 2. It's still enough. It doesn't really create a seal or anything. And last question from one of my oldest subscribers. Let me know, how many years have you been subscribed? Oh my gosh, must be more than 6, 7 at this point, right? Right, so looks good. Do you have any fans in your grow room? I do. It's always off camera and it's always off because nobody wants to hear it or see it. Sometimes he appears. Now though, it's not so important that I use the fan because it became a little bit cool. The more I use the fan, the less humidity I have in the room. And usually I like to use the fan when it's a little too hot, just to make the air a little bit more breathable. Or also I use it when I run the AC as well, just to run the cool air properly and evenly in the room. I do also use it sometimes when it is very, very humid, which doesn't happen often. It didn't even start to rain yet. It barely rained 3 drops this autumn, but hoping for the winter rains. But when it's very, very humid, yeah, that's when I run it more. He's always here. I don't use it all the time. It's not needed. It just makes evaporation faster, and that's not what I need. But he's here, and I use it sometimes when I need it. Alrighty, and that has been it for today. I went through all of the 12 questions. I hope this video is not too long, but thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have questions, put them in the comments below and I'll try to get to them. Thank you rePotme so much for sponsoring yet another video. And with that said, I hope you all have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye!